You are the worst government we've ever seen.
Housing affordability has sunk to its lowest level in 3 decades.
The Australian dream is about people owning houses.
Australia's housing market is in crisis, and it's reshaping the nation's economy. Once the cornerstone of financial security, home ownership is now slipping out of reach for millions. With median house prices nearing $1 million and wages failing to keep up, the dream of owning a home is quickly becoming a nightmare for many Australians. How did we go from affordable homes and thriving suburbs to one of the least accessible housing markets in the world? This isn't just about high prices, it's about what those prices mean for the economy. Families are spending more than half their income on rent. Construction is stalling due to labor shortages, and wealth inequality is growing as homeowners see record gains while renters struggle to get by. It's a financial and social tipping point with consequences that could ripple for decades. In this video, we'll break down how Australia's housing crisis unfolded, the economic forces behind it, and what can be done to restore balance. The stakes are high, and the answers are critical. Stay with us for the full story, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Economy Explorer for more insights that matter. Housing market overview. Just over a decade ago, buying a home in Australia was a realistic goal for most working families. With a stable economy and growing incomes, the average house price hovered around $450,000 in 2011. Fast forward to today, and that figure has more than doubled to nearly $1 million. What's even more shocking is that wages during this period barely moved. For many Australians, the numbers just don't add up anymore. How did this dramatic shift happen, and what does it mean for the economy? The root of the issue lies in the relentless imbalance between housing prices and incomes. A family earning an average income in the 1980s could afford a house that cost just 3 times their annual earnings. By 2024, this figure has jumped to nearly 10 times, placing Australia among the most unaffordable housing markets globally, second only to Hong Kong. This isn't just a statistic, it's a seismic shift in economic accessibility. It's like trying to climb a ladder where the bottom rungs have been removed. Australia's housing market isn't just about affordability, it's about geography too. While the country is vast, most of its population is concentrated in just 5 major cities, with Sydney and Melbourne leading the pack. These urban hubs, responsible for nearly half of the nation's economic activity, are also some of the least affordable places to live in the world. For perspective, Sydney is 14 times the size of Berlin in land area, yet it still struggles to accommodate its population. The result? A housing squeeze that has driven prices sky high. At the same time, rental demand has exploded. Long queues for inspections and skyrocketing rents have become the norm. In some cities, families are spending over 60% of their income just to secure a place to live. These trends are reshaping Australia's housing landscape and its economy, with ripple effects that extend far beyond individual households. Economic factors driving the crisis. Australia's housing crisis didn't happen overnight. It's the result of a perfect storm of economic forces, each compounding the other. Let's start with interest rates, often called the silent engine of the economy. Over the past decade, the Reserve Bank of Australia slashed interest rates to near-record lows, aiming to stimulate economic growth. While this made borrowing cheaper, it also fueled an unprecedented demand for housing. Suddenly, everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors, was in the market, and prices began their relentless climb. But demand alone doesn't explain the crisis. Supply has been another critical pressure point. Australia's construction sector has faced significant setbacks, from labor shortages to skyrocketing material costs. For instance, it now costs 40% more to build a home than it did before the pandemic, and projects are taking nearly 20% longer to complete. Add to this layers of bureaucratic red tape and restrictive zoning laws, and you have a housing supply that's nowhere near meeting the demand. The result? fewer homes, higher prices, and growing frustration among those trying to enter the market. Immigration has also played a pivotal role in shaping the housing landscape. Over the past 2 years, Australia welcomed record numbers of migrants, contributing to population growth at a time when housing supply was already stretched thin. While immigration brings undeniable economic benefits, including filling critical labor shortages, it has also intensified competition for homes, driving rents and prices even higher. Critics argue that the timing of these policies has exacerbated the housing crunch, creating a ripple effect across the economy. Finally, let's not overlook government incentives, which, while well-intentioned, have sometimes backfired. Grants for first-time home buyers and tax breaks for investors have injected more money into the housing market, further inflating prices. These policies, aimed at helping Australians, have instead deepened the divide between those who own homes and those who don't. Social and economic consequences. Owning a home in Australia has long been a cornerstone of security and success. But for a growing number of Australians, that sense of security is slipping further out of reach, giving rise to profound social and economic divides. Renters, now spending up to 60% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads, are finding it nearly impossible to save for a down payment on a home. This has created a two-tier society: those who own property and are building wealth, and those stuck in a cycle of financial instability. The effects of this divide extend far beyond individual households. Homelessness is on the rise, with a staggering 22% increase in the past 3 years alone. Shockingly, many of those seeking assistance are employed but can no longer afford housing due to skyrocketing rents. This is more than a housing problem. It's an economic time bomb. Families spending a majority of their income on housing have less to contribute to other sectors of the economy, slowing growth and exacerbating inequality. But the issue isn't just financial, it's deeply personal. The psychological toll of housing insecurity, stress, anxiety, and a loss of hope affects individuals and communities alike. Parents worry about uprooting their children from schools due to frequent moves, while young adults delay milestones like starting a family because they can't afford stable housing. These ripple effects are quietly reshaping the social fabric of the country. The housing crisis is also fueling resentment and frustration, particularly among younger generations. Many feel that the dream of homeownership, once a given for their parents, is now out of reach due to systemic failures. This sentiment is amplifying calls for change and challenging the status quo. But where do we go from here? As we look ahead, understanding the potential solutions to this crisis becomes critical, not just for those directly affected, but for the future of Australia's economy as a whole. The crossroads of crisis and opportunity. In the heart of Australia's housing crisis lies a question that affects everyone. What kind of future are we building? For decades, home ownership was a symbol of stability, a way to secure one's financial future and provide a foundation for the next generation. Today, that foundation feels more like quicksand, leaving countless Australians struggling to find their footing. The story of this crisis isn't just about numbers or policies, it's about the people caught in its wake, families forced to move, young adults delaying their dreams, and an economy stretched thin by rising inequality. But where there is crisis, there is also opportunity. The conversation around housing in Australia is louder than ever, with experts, policymakers, and communities coming together to find solutions. Whether it's easing planning restrictions, investing in public housing, or rethinking tax policies that fuel speculation, the path forward requires bold, decisive action. Yet, as we've seen, this isn't a problem that will fix itself. It will take effort, innovation, and a collective commitment to change. The stakes couldn't be higher. Australia's housing market is more than an economic indicator. It's a reflection of the country's values. Will we prioritize accessibility and equality, or allow the gap between the haves and have-nots to widen even further? The decisions made today will echo for generations, shaping not just the housing market, but the fabric of Australian society. As we wrap up, remember this: the housing crisis isn't just Australia's story. It's a global one, and understanding its nuances is the first step toward creating change. Thank you for exploring these critical issues with us on Economy Explorer. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to join our journey of economic discovery. And don't miss our next video, now on your screen, for more thought-provoking insights. Thank you for being a part of Economy Explorer. Together, we're building a better understanding of the world.